Family didn't invite me to the Christmas, but sent me a $25,000 invoice for my sister's car, so My name's Margaret, and at 62, I've learned that life can surprise you, even when you think you've seen it all. Let me take you to a moment that changed everything. A moment so bright it still warms me like a summer day. Picture me standing on the soft sands of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. The kind of place where the ocean whispers secrets and the sunset paints the sky in pinks and golds. It was December 2024, just after Christmas, and there I was, my silver hair loose in the breeze, holding a sketchbook I hadn't touched in years. I was drawing the waves, each one curling like a promise. The salt air clung to my skin, and for the first time in decades, I felt free not just from worry, but from the weight of being needed by everyone but myself. I whispered to the sea, "Maggie, you've forgotten how to live for you." A gull swooped low, and I laughed, the sound startling me. When was the last time I'd laughed like that? The sand was cool under my toes, and my heart, oh, it was blooming like a late autumn rose. I'd spent my life giving my time, my love, my dream stow, my family, but there, on that beach, I was giving something to me. How did I end up in paradise, you ask? Well, honey, it's a story of hurt and healing, one I need to share. Let's go back a few weeks, to a cold Ohio winter, where the snow fell soft but my world felt colder. It was early December, and I was in my little ranch house in Columbus, Ohio, the kind with creaky floors and a kitchen that always smelled of vanilla. The radio played Silent Night, and I was elbow deep in sugar cookie dough, the same recipe I'd used since my boy Mike was small. My Christmas tree twinkled in the corner, strung with ornaments we'd collected over the years, some from Mike's school days, others from trips to the Winter Village Market downtown. I hummed along, picturing the holiday ahead. Christmas was my time to shine, to fill the house with love and make everyone feel at home. This year I had a big plan. I'd been saving for 2 years to buy a gift for Mike and his wife, Paula, $25,000 SUV, perfect for the grandchild they'd soon have. My pension from Cleveland Clinic, where I'd worked as a nurse for 30 years, wasn't much, but I'd squirreled away every penny I could. The SUV was practical, safe, a way to show them I was still here, still giving. But I couldn't swing it alone, so I thought Paula, a fancy dentist in downtown Cleveland, might chip in half, $12,500. It'd be a family gift, something to bring us closer. I wiped flour off my hands and picked up the phone, my heart a little fluttery. "Paula, honey," I said when she answered, "I've got an idea for a Christmas surprise for you and Mike. A new SUV for the baby. I've saved up half, and I was hoping you'd go in with me for the rest. What do you think?" There was a pause, long enough to make my stomach twist. "Margaret," Paula said, her voice sharp as a winter wind, "I'm not paying for that. It's your idea, not mine. You figure it out." Before I could reply, she hung up. I stood there, the phone still warm in my hand, feeling like I'd been slapped. The kitchen, with its warm lights and cookie smell, suddenly felt too small, too quiet. I sat at my table, the one where Mike used to do his homework, and opened my laptop. Paula had sent an email, as if her call wasn't clear enough. "Margaret, I'm not your bank. If you want to play Santa, do it on your own dime." I read it twice, my eyes stinging. Had I asked too much? I'd paid for their honeymoon when they were short, driven 6 hours to Cleveland to nurse Paula through the flu, even knitted blankets for their new house. And now I was, what? A nuisance? I closed the laptop and looked at my tree, its lights blurring through tears. I thought of all the Christmases past, when Mike was little, and we'd string popcorn garlands by the fire. Back then, it was just us two. After my husband Tom passed, I'd worked night shifts, sketching in the break room to stay awake, dreaming of being an artist. But dreams waited. Mike needed school clothes, a roof, a future. I gave it all, never asking for thanks. So why did Paula's words cut so deep? Maybe because they echoed a fear I'd carried too long, that I was fading, that my love wasn't enough anymore. Let me tell you about my family, so you understand the ache. I'm Margaret, a widow who raised Mike alone in Columbus. I was a nurse, the kind who held patients' hands through their darkest nights. I retired 5 years ago, and now I fill my days with gardening and baking, though I still sneak a sketch or two when no one's looking. Mike's my only child, 35 now, a kind man who works as an engineer in Cleveland. He married Paula 3 years ago, and I thought she'd be the daughter I never had. Paula's a dentist, successful, with a smile that lights up a room when she wants it to. But there's another side to her, one that's sharp and cold, like a mirror reflecting only herself. Paula never warmed to me the way I hoped. At their wedding, I gave them a quilt I'd stitched for months, each square a memory of Mike's childhood. She thanked me, but later I found it stuffed in a closet. Last Christmas, at their sleek loft in Cleveland, she laughed to her friends. Margaret's gifts are so vintage, like, who knits anymore? I smiled, pretending it didn't hurt, but it did. I'd spent weeks on that scarf, picking yarn the color of her eyes. Still, I kept trying, cooking her favorite pot roast, sending cards, calling to check in. I thought that's what family did. But Paula had a way of making me feel small. Once, when I drove up to help after she had surgery, she barely said thanks. I spent 3 days cooking, cleaning, fetching her medicine, and all she said was, "You don't have to hover, Margaret." Mike didn't see I loves her, and I love him, so I bit my tongue. I didn't want to be the meddling mother-in-law you hear about in stories. I just wanted us to be a family. A few days after Paula's email, I was still reeling, rolling out more cookie dough to keep my hands busy. The phone rang, and I hoped it was Mike, ready to smooth things over. But it was Paula again. Her voice clipped. "Margaret, we've decided to host Christmas at our place this year. It's going to be selective. I think it's better if you don't come. Less awkward, you know." I gripped the counter, the flour dusting my knuckles like snow. "Awkward?" I managed. "Paula, I've always come for Christmas. It's our tradition." "It's not personal," she said, but her tone was all business. "We just want a smooth holiday, you understand?" She hung up before I could argue. I stood there, the kitchen spinning. Not personal? I'd spent every Christmas with Mike, even after he moved to Cleveland. I'd driven through blizzards, cooked feasts, wrapped gifts till midnight. And now I was uninvited, like a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. I sank into my armchair, the one Tom used to love, and stared at my tree. The ornament seemed to mock me, a clay star Mike made in 3rd grade, a glass angel from our first Christmas without Tom. I'd given my family everything, but it wasn't enough. Paula didn't want me, and Mike, my sweet boy, hadn't called to check on me. I felt like a leaf falling in autumn, unnoticed, drifting to the ground. But as the tears came, a spark flickered inside me. I'd spent my life being what others needed: nurse, mother, widow. Maybe it was time to be something else. Someone who didn't beg for a seat at a table that didn't want her. I didn't know what I'd do next, but I knew I couldn't stay silent. Not this time. If this story's touching your heart, I hope you'll stick with me to see where it leads. Subscribe to our channel to hear the rest of my journey. It's one of hurt, hope, and finding light in the darkest winter. And please, drop a comment below. Have you ever felt pushed aside by family? What did you do? Your stories mean the world to me, and I'm all ears. Margaret's Redemption, Part 2. Hello, dear friends. It's Margaret again, sitting here in my Columbus kitchen, where the smell of cinnamon and old memories lingers. Last time, I left you with a heart heavy from my family's rejection, invited from Christmas by my daughter-in-law, Paula, and told I was asking too much for wanting to share a gift for my future grandchild. That cold December night, as I stared at my twinkling Christmas tree, something stirred in me. I'd spent my life giving, but maybe it was time to stand up for myself. Let me take you through what happened next. Through the hurt and the moments that lit a new path. The days after Paula's call were a blur, like snow falling too fast to see the road ahead. I kept busy, rolling out more cookie dough, wrapping presents, anything to keep my hands from trembling. But my mind wouldn't rest. I kept hearing her voice. "Less awkward without you, Margaret." Less awkward? I'd driven through blizzards to spend Christmas with Mike, my son, and Paula in their fancy Cleveland loft. I'd cooked feasts, knitted scarves, and smiled through Paula's little jabs. And now, I was the one who didn't fit. I tried calling Mike, hoping he'd soften the blow. "Mom," he said, his voice tired. "Paula's just stressed with work. She didn't mean it like that. Give her time." Time? I'd given them years, my savings, my energy, my heart. I hung up, feeling like a stranger in my own family. That night, I lay awake, the autumn wind rattling my windows. Have I been too much? I wondered. Or have I not been enough? The loneliness was a weight, heavy as the quilt I'd made for Mike and Paula's wedding, now gathering dust in their closet. I thought back to the early days, when it was just me and Mike. It was the 1980s, and I was a young widow in Columbus, Ohio, working night shifts at Cleveland Clinic. Mike was 6, all big eyes and endless questions, and I'd come home at dawn, bone-tired, to make him pancakes. I'd sketch in the break room to stay awake little drawings of the Ohio River or the maple trees outside our apartment. I dreamed of being an artist, maybe selling my work at the Columbus Arts Festival. But dreams waited. Mike needed school shoes, books, a chance at a better life. So I tucked my pencils away and poured everything into him. When Mike met Paula, I was over the moon. She was bright, a dentist with a laugh that filled a room. I thought we'd be close, like the daughter I never had. I spent months stitching that wedding quilt, each square a memory. Mike's first bike, our camping trips to Hocking Hills. But at the reception, Paula barely glanced at it. "Thanks, Margaret," she said, then handed it to a cousin to store. Later, I found it in a guest room closet, stuffed behind old coats. I told myself she was just busy, that she'd come around. But she never did. There were other moments, too, that chipped away at me. Once, I drove 6 hours to Cleveland when Paula had the flu. I cooked chicken soup, fluffed her pillows, and ran to the pharmacy. She barely looked up from her phone. "You don't have to hover, Margaret," she said, her voice sharp. I smiled, but inside I was breaking. Another time, at their Christmas party last year, she told her friends, "Margaret stuck in the 70s with her knitted gifts. So retro." The room laughed, and I joined in, pretending it was a joke. But it wasn't. I'd spent weeks on that scarf, choosing yarn the color of her eyes, hoping she'd feel my love. A week before Christmas, I bundled up and headed to the Winter Village Market in downtown Columbus. The air was crisp, and the stalls glowed with fairy lights, selling hot cider and handmade ornaments. I wandered, clutching a bag of roasted chestnuts, hoping the holiday cheer would lift me. At a stall selling pottery, I ran into Susan, an old friend from my nursing days. Her face lit up and we hugged, the kind of hug that says you're not alone. "Maggie, you look like you're carrying the world," Susan said, her eyes kind but sharp. "What's wrong?" I hesitated, then let it spill Paula's email. The uninvitation, the ache of feeling unwanted. Susan listened, her scarf fluttering in the wind. "You've given them everything, Maggie," she said. "Your time, your money, your heart. When's it your turn to live?" Her words hit me like a warm sip of cider on a cold day. My turn? I'd never thought of it that way. I'd been a nurse, a mother, a widow, always someone's anchor. But who was I now? I walked home through the snowy streets, the market's lights fading behind me. In my kitchen, I sat with a cup of tea, staring at the cookie tins I'd planned to send to Cleveland. They don't want me, I thought, but maybe I don't need their permission to matter. Then came the final straw. Paula texted me, out of the blue, "Margaret, we need $500 for Christmas decorations. Can you send it? The party's gotta look perfect." I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. She'd uninvited me but expected me to pay for her holiday glow. The nerve of it burned, like a spark catching dry leaves. I didn't reply. Instead, I poured another tea and let the anger settle into something else resolve. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't going to beg for a place in their Christmas. I wasn't going to send that $500 or keep pretending Paula's slights were okay. But I also wasn't going to scream or fight. That wasn't me. I wanted to speak my truth, quietly, in a way that might make them see. I opened my laptop and joined the Columbus Neighbors Facebook group, a place where folks shared recipes, lost pet notices, and sometimes, their hearts. I typed slowly, my fingers trembling but sure. "I've always tried to be there for my family," I wrote. "I've cooked, sewn, and saved to make them smile. But this Christmas, I was told I'm not welcome because I asked for help with a gift for my grandchild. It hurts to feel like you're not enough, but I'm learning I'm enough for me." I didn't name Paula or Mike. I didn't need to. I hit post and closed the laptop, my heart pounding like it did when I was a girl, nervous but alive. By evening, the post had exploded. Neighbors commented, "That's heartbreaking," and "Whoever did this should be ashamed." Friends from church messaged me, offering to bring over pie or just sit and talk. Word spread beyond Columbus, somehow reaching Cleveland. I didn't know how, but I heard whispers that Paula's colleagues had seen it. Her dental clinic's Yelp page started getting reviews known too, kind calling her heartless and ungrateful. I didn't mean for that to happen, but I didn't stop it either. Paula had written her own story, and now she was reading the reviews. That night, my phone rang. It was Paula, her voice a mix of fury and panic. "Margaret, how dare you? You're ruining my life with that post. Do you know what people are saying?" I took a breath, picturing the waves I'd soon see in Hilton Head. "Paula," I said, calm as a summer lake, "I didn't name you. I just told my truth. If it's causing a stir, maybe that's on you." She sputtered, then hung up. I sat back, surprised at my own steadiness. For the first time, I wasn't apologizing or fixing things. I was standing tall. The next day, Mike showed up at my door, his face drawn. "Mom, why didn't you tell me how bad it was?" he asked, stepping into the kitchen. I poured him coffee, the same mug he'd used as a teenager. "I tried, Mike," I said. "But you were busy loving Paula, and I didn't want to make you choose." His eyes filled, and he reached for my hand. "I'm sorry, Mom. I should have seen it." We cried together, the kind of tears that clean out old wounds. "I love you," I told him, "but I need to love myself too. I'm not coming to Cleveland, and I'm done being pushed aside." Mike nodded, and as he left, I felt a weight lift. I wasn't losing him, but I was gaining me. That evening, I booked my trip to Hilton Head Island. I'd never traveled alone, but the thought of sand and sea called to me like an old friend. I packed my sketchbook, the one I'd hidden away for years, and felt a flutter of hope. Christmas might be broken, but I wasn't. This part of my story isn't easy, but it's real, and I'm so grateful you're here with me. If you're feeling the ache of my journey or maybe your own, please subscribe to our channel to hear how it ends. And drop a comment below. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when it hurt? Your stories are like a warm hug to me, and I can't wait to read them. Margaret's Redemption, Part 3. Hello, my dear friends. It's Margaret again, sitting in my Columbus garden, where the autumn leaves fall like golden whispers. I've shared the ache of being pushed aside by my daughter-in-law Paula, and the spark of courage that led me to speak my truth. After that cold Christmas of 2024, when I posted my heart on our Columbus Neighbors Facebook group, everything changed. Paula's world shook, and I booked a solo trip to Hilton Head Island, ready to find the woman I'd forgotten. Let me take you through the end of this journey, not just the healing, but the rediscovery of a life I never thought I'd claim. The plane touched down in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, on Christmas Eve, and the warm air wrapped around me like a quilt I hadn't known I needed. I'd never traveled alone, not in all my 62 years, and my hands trembled as I checked into the resort. My room overlooked the ocean, with a balcony where the waves sang a lullaby. I unpacked my sketchbook, its pages yellowed from years in a drawer, and felt a flutter, like a girl on her first day of school. This is for me, I thought, and the idea felt revolutionary. The next morning, Christmas Day, I walked the beach at dawn. The sand was cool, the sky a soft pink, and I sketched the horizon, my pencil moving like it remembered who I was. I thought of Christmases past Mike's laughter as we strung popcorn garlands, the way my husband, Tom, would hum "Oh Holy Night" while peeling potatoes. Those memories were warm, but they didn't own me anymore. I was here, now, with the sea and my dreams. I whispered to the waves, "Maggie, you're enough." Later, I joined a sunset walk with other guests, including a couple from Vermont, both in their 70s, who'd been married 50 years. They saw my sketchbook and asked to look. "These are beautiful, Margaret," the wife, Ellen, said, her eyes crinkling. "You should show them at a gallery." I laughed, brushing it off, but her words planted a seed. We shared stories over coffee, and for the first time in years, I wasn't just Mike's mom or Paula's mother-in-law. I was Margaret, the woman who loved to draw, who laughed at seagull antics, who had stories worth telling. Each day in Hilton Head brought a new joy. I painted watercolors of palm trees, ate shrimp and grits at a beachside cafe, and let the sun melt my worries. One afternoon, I called Susan, my friend from Columbus, and told her about the island. "Maggie," she said, her voice bright, "you're blooming like a late autumn rose. Don't stop." I hung up, staring at my latest sketch, a lighthouse against a stormy sky. This is who I am, I thought. Not a doormat, not a bank, but a woman with a heart full of color. I returned to Columbus in early January, my suitcase heavier with paints and my heart lighter than ever. The Ohio winter was still gray, but I saw it differently now, like a canvas waiting for spring. I hung my Hilton Head sketches in my living room, their blues and golds bright against the old wallpaper. I was ready to move forward, but I knew Paula and I weren't done. Her silence since our last call hung like a storm cloud, and I braced for what might come. 2 weeks later, I was pruning my garden roses when I heard a car pull up. Paula stepped out, her face pale, her usual polish gone. "Margaret," she said, her voice small. "Can we talk?" I nodded, leading her to the porch swing, the one Mike used to nap on as a boy. She sat, twisting her hands, and the words tumbled out. "I'm sorry, Margaret. I was awful. I got caught up in my image me job, my friends, my perfect life. I didn't see how much I hurt you." I studied her, seeing the cracks in her armor. "Why now, Paula?" I asked, my voice steady but kind. "Because of the Yelp reviews? The whispers at your clinic?" She flinched, then nodded. "At first, yes. My colleagues stopped inviting me to lunch. My patients canceled appointments. But it made me look at myself. I was wrong to push you away, to act like you didn't matter." Her eyes filled, and for a moment I saw the girl she might have been before ambition hardened her. "I don't expect you to fix this," she said. "I just needed to say I'm sorry." I took a breath, the scent of roses grounding me. I'd spent years swallowing hurt, but Hilton Head had taught me something. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. "Paula," I said, "I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. But things won't be the same. I'm done being your doormat. If we're to be family, it's on equal ground." She nodded, tears spilling, and stood to leave. "I'll try, Margaret," she said. "I hope you'll see it." As her car disappeared, I felt no anger, only relief. I'd drawn a line, and it felt as solid as the lighthouse in my sketch. Mike came by the next weekend, alone. We sat in the kitchen, sipping coffee, and he apologized again. "I let you down, Mom," he said, his eyes like the boy who'd once needed me to chase away nightmares. "I'm working on things with Paula, but I want you in my life always." We hugged, and I knew we'd find our way, step by step. I didn't need to be his everything anymore, but I'd always be his mom. Spring came, and with it, a new chapter. Susan nudged me to share my art, so I started teaching a watercolor class at the Columbus Community Center. My students were women like me, their hair gray but their spirits young, eager to paint sunsets and gardens. The room smelled of paint and coffee, and their laughter filled me like sunshine. One day, a student, Ruth, brought me a rose from her yard. "For you, Margaret," she said. "You make us feel like we can start again." I pressed that rose in my sketchbook, a reminder that life blooms at any age. I saw Paula once more, at Mike's birthday in April. She was quieter, less polished, and when she complimented my garden, I saw a flicker of sincerity. I smiled, but kept my distance. Forgiveness isn't a door flung wide. It's a window, open just enough for light. Mike and I grew closer, meeting for coffee or walks in Goodale Park, where the cherry blossoms reminded me of Hilton Head's softness. He was learning to balance his love for Paula with his love for me, and I was learning to let him. Now, as I sit in my garden, the October leaves swirling, I'm at peace. I'm planning another trip to Charleston this time, to paint its historic streets. My sketches line my walls, each one a piece of me I've reclaimed. I think of that Christmas, the one that broke me open, and I'm grateful. It taught me that no matter your age, you're never too old to find your light. You're never too old to live for yourself, to love yourself, to bloom like a rose in late autumn. This is where my story rests, dear friends, but I hope it's just the start for you. If my journey has touched you, please subscribe to our channel for more stories of heart and hope. And leave a comment. Have you ever found your own light after a dark season? Your stories are like stars in my sky, and I'm so eager to read them. Thank you for walking this road with me.